Hello, friends. Oh my God, dude, the cameras are all lined up perfectly. I'm so pro. Okay.
First
Welcome to episode number 8 of the True Shot Lodge podcast. We are going to talk about a medley of different things today. A little classic, a little Ny'alotha and all that stuff, and then essence changes, patch 8.3
Anytime you talk
stuff.
about classic, I'm gonna bark like a dog though. Like just
Okay,
throw it to me.
okay, deal,
Really just
deal.
take
I
notes.
don't know why the screen keeps blinking though. Hold on. Okay, I don't know. Anyways, so the first thing that we should address, since it is all the rage in the BM channel right now, is throw the hunt. So, Azor, you want to give us some why throw the hunt changed, some background,
Mhm.
and how it came and stuff like that.
So for the longest time, Thrill of the Hunt, it's basically like a crit buff that is tied to Frenzy. Like it has the exact same duration. You trigger it with Barb Shot. It even stacks up to 3 times. And it looked really good on the paper, but the problem was that its effect did not affect your pets in any way. And apparently, in the minor patch 8.2.5, they changed that without indicating it anywhere. They being Blizzard, of course. And now it's really good. And yeah, so no one bothered to check it for like 2 months because we didn't have a reason to check it because well, there was no indication anywhere except like a spell data flag in a hidden spell on Wowhead. Like by hidden spell, I mean one that you don't see the tooltip for in game. Like what you see in game is like a front for what's really going on behind the scenes, and what's going on behind the scenes is what changed without anyone's proper knowledge. Until Volkovat, he was really bored at work, is as far as I know, and he just decided to test it because why not? And suddenly overnight, PM got effectively like a 2 to 3% plus single
Yeah,
target buff,
I don't know. I'm just
and
saying,
even more in Mythic Plus and stuff.
Keening
Is that the
predicted
front where
this.
that's the story we've made up for thing that he just randomly tested, or are we? So we're pretending that the secret forum doesn't exist. Okay, good to know.
Maybe
So,
I don't know what's more impressive, like having access to the hidden forum or just happening to check and
Yeah.
it works.
So long story short, somebody advocating our interests said, guys, you really need to fix this so this talent isn't dog shit, which has been said for a long time by a lot of people. And finally, someone was like, yeah, you're right. We should do that. And then someone else said, actually, we did that this patch. Have you not noticed? It's like, no, we haven't noticed. Why would anyone fucking notice? Jesus Christ. So,
dude,
yeah,
all the
long story short. So
Asians
everyone
noticed.
quickly rushed and tested it and went, holy shit, they're right. They actually did something right. And all they had to do,
Yeah,
like, this is the worst part. All they had to do was one throwaway line in the last
I'm
patch
sort
notes, and we would
of
have been like, oh, yeah, good lads. But instead, they're like, hide themselves. They didn't take up the opportunity to get some clout.
Yeah, I'm sort of beating myself up about it because I saw a lot of the Asians start using it in like Raid and Mythic Plus and stuff like that, and I was like, oh no, Crows is still better. Like they're dumb. Like I
Yeah.
don't know why they're using it. And
I
then
don't,
Yeah,
I don't,
I
ap-
feel the same way. The
apparently
immune
they're
I
ahead
don't
of the
glitch
know
is
if
curve,
they
and
perfect
picked
on
up on
that.
it. I don't know if they picked up on it over there. Just like, I don't know if they ever
I'm
knew it didn't.
certain that they
I think
have.
they
they
kind
had
of just
why
Both
there were
the
a
top
lot of people, like a
passes.
lot of the top hunters in Mythic Plus started switching to Thrill of the Hunt,
mm,
and a lot of the not a lot of the top parses, but there are a couple top parses using
The
Thrill of the
two
Hunt.
top
lots of people were
passers, the
always
two
using it,
Koreans,
and
they both Thrill
yeah,
of the Hunt almost everybody.
Yeah,
Korea realized. And there's
lots
also
yeah,
of
like
lots of
8
people were using
Koreans
it
in the top 10.
in Mythic Plus, and the reason was really flawed and amusing. They were like, "Oh well, look, you're not using crows that much. I'd rather get the." And this is why it's amusing. I'd rather get the extra auto shot crits, which will give me more stomps, which will give me
well
more AoE, give me more.
I thought
Except
that.
auto shot is not on the whitelisted spells for what benefits from the crit, so that was never actually true. But that was the rationale from a lot of people using it in Mythic Plus.
However, as an addendum to that, Thrill of the Hunt does affect your chance to proc DoD,
Yeah.
which is not obvious because it doesn't change the crit percent on your character sheet.
Mm.
Yeah, so I people were actually asking me about that, and Throw the Hunt along with Aspect of the Wild Crit are both whitelisted. And so the only thing that shows up on your crit, like the actual panel, is crit that affects everything, right? And so since it only affects doesn't affect everything, it's whitelisted. I don't know if that makes sense. Sort of,
Yeah, like to
but
just to explain, like a whitelist means that instead of just point blank affecting all of your crit chance, what they have is like a hidden spell, a list of spells that it gives increased crit chance to, and that goes for both aspect and it goes for Thrill of the Hunt. And those spells are basically all the active abilities that you use, excluding auto shot, I believe, but kill command, cobra shot, all of those things. But because it's as Moofz said, like a whitelist that only affects a certain list of spells, it's not relevant for the character sheet, which is really silly. But I guess it would be OP if you could get like really sick crit rates on your big
It's
beam or something.
Yeah, it's almost entirely there to stop unintended consequences with trinkets or other like random
yeah,
ability type things. And then they're like, we don't have to worry about this when it comes to balancing. It's actually turned into quite a finite list. Like it really was just like Cobra Shot, Kill Command, Barbed, multi shot. I think that might and Stomp. And it was like that was like it. That was only those abilities that it
yeah.
affected.
But yeah, so if you haven't been keeping up, Thrill of the Hunt is the new go-to. It is slightly better than Crows in single target and much better in AoE. There will be something to say, like if there's like a niche, like maybe you can get a lot of resets in the future. Like I don't think the current raid has any, but I don't know. I
Do you
think
remember?
Crows.
Do you remember about a month ago when some dude was talking about Thrill for different reasons in
Keening,
Shut Lodge,
the boy
and
Keening.
yeah, some dude like no, not some dude. It was fucking Emless just fucking went full blown
It was
autistic
Keening
bully
and
mode.
Emily, yes.
Oh
uh,
man, eat some crow.
yeah. Anyways, throw the hunt, all the rage. So can basically almost go straight down the middle with our talents and BM for raid, right? Just except for stomp. Just need barrage to be relevant now, and then we can just go straight down the middle.
I mean, Talo has been working on APL improvements for it, but it's not like improvements to the tune of making it actually good.
Yeah, just a little.
Um, but what it does do well is stack up blood of the enemy really quickly.
Yeah, that's true. Um, so we might be using barrage for AoE
Mm.
stuff in the future,
Just to
but
cover a question, if I can quickly. So
yeah,
Marhold FC asked, so this shows in the sim now. Presumably he's referring to the Fill of the Hunt thing. It's actually not fully fixed in the sims yet. What's fixed is that in the sims, Fill of the Hunt crit affects the pet now. So that's part of it. What's not in the sims yet is the fact that Fill of the Hunt crit affects your chance to get Dance of Death. And that'll probably give everyone probably like a substantial amount of extra DPS, like a few hundred,
yeah,
probably maybe even close to 1K in some cases. I
Yeah,
guess time will
I,
tell.
I I went up from I think from like 58.5 to more or less 59.5. So
Yeah, I
decent
think you're gonna
jump.
get pushed over
yeah,
60K when the DoD Fill of the Hunt
yeah. And
interaction
that
is
that
fixed as well.
should
Yeah.
be
Or
in
if I can
tonight.
snag one more socket
Yeah.
on Sunday, I'll just do it that
Yeah,
way.
so
I've
all of
got I've
it,
got a slot I can get a socket in. Let's do
yeah,
that.
so all of it should be in SimC tonight. So half of it's in right now, all of it should be in tonight. The other thing that's really a big change is the Gale Force enchant. So previously we were all using Crow's Nest for the crit. Gale Force is now slightly better in single target with Thrill the Hunt. And it's always been better in AoE, and so it's just a lot better.
Yeah, and look,
Yeah.
the reasoning for this is quite straightforward. Like realistically, the more crit you have, the better all your other stats are getting. And you can see as that goes up, the distance between them closes and closes and closes. So as a result, Gale Force was always pretty close to your crit scope. It was just a little bit behind. Suddenly, you whack on a big chunk more crit, and it's just spiked the value of that to be
Yeah,
just above. The crit one's still good. This one now you're just getting slightly more mileage out of, and you'll start to see some of your secondaries getting really
yeah.
close and playing around.
In
However,
addition,
you
oh,
still need like a fair amount of crit for Gale Force to be better than
correct.
Deadly
Yeah,
Navigation, just from your gear. So, I mean, I don't have
Yeah,
a
that's
specific
right.
number, like hunters don't deal in specific numbers. It's all you sim yourself. that's the case with this as well. But like you still need, I'd say, over 40% ish
Yeah.
for Gale Force to be the competitive choice.
Yeah,
For
and
single target at least. And AoE, it's much more favor towards Gale Force.
yeah, and along the same lines, haste also is creeping up for a lot of people in terms of like stat weights and benefit. Obviously, still sim yourself, but haste is worth a lot more because we have so much crit now. So like crit is starting to peter off a little for us. But now this is super top end. Like if you only have like 30 something% crit, probably still gonna go for crit everything. But again, sim yourself. But yeah, so Thrill the Hunt, new meta, not a meme. Plenty of
One
memes in
less button.
Lodge about it, but um, okay, so let's move on to some 8.3 stuff. So let's talk about the announcement of the 8.3 item level change. So the last two bosses of Raid, Mythic Raid, drop 10 higher item levels, right? So good for raiders, sucks for mythic plusers and PvPers, right, Dilly?
But it doesn't suck for mythic losses and
Mm,
PvPs. It doesn't affect you in any way, shape, or form. The gear that you had before is the gear that you have tomorrow. It literally has not affected you.
Well,
So the people that are fucking whinging about that, shut you fucking mouth.
no, I'm like okay with the last boss of the raid being good. Honestly,
Yeah, slam
if it,
dunk.
well, if anything would fuck. I mean, honestly, that's not gonna fuck the PvPers, bro. Literally, the shit that fucks the PvPers is like, okay, like the mythic plusers, they got to do their shit, right? But the PvPers, they actually have to do everyone's shit. Like I have to do mythic plus consistently because for every like piece of okay, like so in mythic plus, like at least every dungeon will have like some piece that will have like the proper stats that you want, right? And having the proper stats, like things like versatility and PvP, is super fucking important. And not all the PvP gear is going to have like those right stats. But any PvP piece that has those right stats, there's a Mythic Plus equivalent. So it's not the same vice versa. So like if you're a PvPer, like you have to just grind out a bunch of Mythic Plus. And then if you have like the case of this season where Condensed Life Force is really good, even just as a minor for PvP, most people don't use the major, then you have to do that. Or if you're a healer, the Vitality Conduit, so the healer version of that is like really good. So you need to do that. And then usually like a way to eliminate the RNG in your gearing is also getting professions like jewel crafting, or for me, I take leatherworking so that I could at least get the guaranteed pieces with the socket after gambling away my precious time. So I could actually get like the right stats, and then like, you know, I get my items. And that seems to be a lot more important in PvP than PvE. Because like, I mean, obviously the right stats matter, but like, you know, you could still sim it and your damage is gonna be relatively the same, but like I feel like those have like such a big impact, and PvPers just have to put in so much effort. Like we don't have any PvP gear, so like we're subject to the same gearing rules, and it's like a damage difference is it's not the same thing you're losing. Like you could be losing defensive, you know, abilities, your defense, or like the
yeah,
ability to like get a global off fast enough so that you can survive, like things like that. Like, you know, if you have too low haste and you're a disc priest or something like that, and you need to use some important utility, and you have a fucking long ass cast, then you're or long ass global cooldown because you have low haste, then you're just fucked. But if you had faster, like more haste, then you could have gotten off, say, like a premonition, avoid a CC, like
yeah.
I don't know.
So
It just only gets worse in 8.3. I feel like with the corruption and things like that, because then you have to get rid of your corruption, so you have to spend time doing that, and then you have to go back to your Mythic Plus, and then you have to. I don't know. I'm very overwhelmed with how much I have to do. It's literally not even related to PvP.
yeah. So okay, so Mythic Plusers, PvP, you know, all that. The feelings aside, just strictly talking raid. So for hunters, we have a weapon that drops off the last boss, I think, and it's like high crit, low mastery, which is pretty good. It is not the one weapon that reduces all of our abilities. I forgot. I think that drops off like the first or second boss or something like that. Last time I checked. So that sort of sucks, but that effect for us isn't really great at the moment, anyways. But if a
Could be fine.
if a bow drops 10 eye levels higher base, it's I think I mean weapon damage is still really good for us, right? So I'm sure that's going to be better. Unless you don't Titan or actually can't Titan Forge anymore, right? So
Yeah, you
It's
can
also
corrupt for it,
the whole
but
what
you
just
can still
flat
get
out.
sockets. You can still get sockets, and I think that's actually a big thing. Like the fact that you can still get sockets, and even if there's a way to eliminate that, like the sockets are still massive differences.
right, I don't
Yeah.
think that bow with the effect plus a socket would beat out a 10 eye level higher weapon though. I don't
Maybe
think.
The
not for
other thing to
BM
factor in is
because
while you're in the early stages, while you're in prog, it's not just what's simmed for the highest DPS. You will have some decisions and trade-offs about corruption, and so not
Right.
getting that from the weapon, that could open up some other choices. As you progress later on, that will start to disappear and not be a consideration anymore, but at least for early stages, this is a nice opportunity. We'll see how it pans
Yeah.
out, but definitely that's something to factor.
it's most likely not going to be good for BM, but because BM is not, it's more like resource limited than it is cooldown limited. But then you have marksmanship, which is completely cooldown limited almost. Like
Right.
adding more focus to MM doesn't do much for it. But if you, for example, if you reduce the cooldown of aim shot and rapid fire, if this effect will reliably do that. I do not know exactly how it picks its abilities, because it says random hunter ability. So if that's gonna include like all of the utility and
It
defensive
does.
abilities,
Any
well, I do
if
hope
like it
they turn
includes
that.
like min pet, disengage,
Yeah,
exhilaration, like
I can't
everything.
imagine that they will let that go through. Otherwise, it's a completely dead corrupted weapon.
Yeah. Like
I can imagine it because I've seen them fuck up things like that for the last 15 years. So I can't imagine a world where they suddenly are like, oh, let's not be moron.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Um.
what I've heard is that most of the corrupted weapons are pretty terrible. Like from what I've read around, like most of the procs and stuff, they're like 1% DPS, and the weapons tend to have like high corruption or something. So it's it looks like we might be going with normal weapons and corruption
Yeah.
everywhere else.
I think Prox. I think your cam froze.
They, the one for Zerel seems like it'd be good. Well, anyone with the staff, but like none of that's just like a PV. I don't know. It depends. 'Cause I guess I was just from the guys that it's like
Well,
harder
so
to get that right
the
item of hole.
the two OP ones they actually just nerfed to the ground. So the Blood Decay one, which was super good, Blood Decays were doing like 30k overall with the weapon on PTR. They just nerfed it by like 70% or something like that.
Is the one based on your stamina or whatever? The
It's baseline on your armor. So it did so it was basically a diver's folly, and the damage was 1000% of your armor or something
oh,
like
okay.
that.
It's a different one, but yeah,
And
I
so
see that's
now
part of
it's
Blood
and so
DK.
now it's only 300% of your armor, which is still good, but it's not like nearly as bad. And then the other one was the two-handed agility staff.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of.
It's like every auto hit, auto attack, you do 2% of their damage and heal for 2%. So now
Yeah.
it's a 25% chance to do that effect.
So they nerfed it to a
Yeah,
quarter of what
yeah.
it was.
Yeah,
Um,
that's actually good.
yeah,
And
so
it's still
those aren't super OP anymore.
it's still good at a quarter of what it was.
Yeah.
I mean, it's honestly better that they made it like instead of nerfing the effect by a fourth, I actually think it's better that way because like maybe there's the unlucky streak, I guess. So they can make well,
I prefer that way anyway, purely so that when it happens, it's still impactful. Like I would always rather sometimes a big hit happens rather than every time a tiny hit happens to the point where
yeah,
you're
yeah,
like, I don't notice. It's just a passive DPS increase. It doesn't matter.
yeah. I agree with that.
Um, but yeah, so TLDR, the cooldown reduction bow sort of sucks for the effect. Plus, it gives you corruption. I'm pretty sure as of now, I mean, we'll have to summon stuff, but the plus 10 eye level weapon off of the last boss will be better. Um, and then survival, what boss does the two-handed drop? I think it's like one of the middle bosses.
That would be Maut.
Mount,
I'm not
yeah.
sure where that is in
I think
the
it's one of
list
the
though.
middle bosses. I don't remember. The path that you can go in Ny'alotha is sort of like it's not straightforward. Like you can go like first boss, then the next three bosses, and the next three bosses. So it's sort of like you have options.
It's gonna
Um,
be interesting for World First, but
yeah,
eventually, it's gonna emerge which are the best ones to go for.
yeah,
Although in Uldir there was some variation, like some guilds preferred Vectis over Sekwas and stuff.
right, yeah. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, it seems like a really fun raid so far. But so speaking of the raid, we can sort of Prox, have you done any raid testing or no? Or sort of looked at
Nah,
them?
I've watched a bunch, but it's always at like 6 a.m., 5 a.m.
Yeah.
kind of thing. So.
So BM looks really good for all the bosses except the last two, of course. So, we'll see. The last two are very multi-dot intensive. There's a lot of sort of like Il'gynoth, like in Emerald Nightmare, how there's like tentacles spread out everywhere and stuff like that. It's a lot like that. And they're at least Gahoon, or not Gahoon, N'Zoth. They were not in Beast Cleave range at all. But it does seem, what I did test of N'Zoth, that the tentacles are sort of just like they need to die, but they're not like they need to die now, and there's like one priority target that needs to die, and so
Someone was
it
saying
could.
they count as totems anyway, right? So if that's the case, lots of cleaving type abilities wouldn't hit them even if they were closer.
Oh, I'm not sure about that.
Yeah,
Um,
if that's true, that traumatic, like
yeah,
multi-shot doesn't hit them
I
and blah blah
know
blah blah
they're
blah.
very insignificant in like the actual fight, but they do like if there's multiple targets, right? It's gonna people are gonna bring multi-daughters because it increases their single target damage anyways, right? So,
Yeah, yeah,
um,
yeah. It's just like even if you could force them together or whatever, if multi-shot's not hitting them, you can't even look at, hey, can I boost my single target by taking rapid reload means?
right.
Yeah,
But
it's an important thing to establish.
there are a lot of good. So the actually the Carapace of N'Zoth, was the second to last boss, is actually super BM friendly. So we can't. I think that'll sort of be like a depends on how you tank it type fight. There's a ton of little ads, so like rapid reload, barrage memes galore. Um, but the only thing that sucks on that boss is padding, because there's a lot of like padding issues. Like there's a tentacle that drops smack dab in the middle of the platform, and you have to like walk around the entire platform and stuff with your pet, and so it'll really depend how you tank it type thing. Um, but I don't think I think BM's gonna be pretty good for the most part next raid. So we'll see.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
question for me isn't whether BM is good; it's whether Marks winds up being slightly better or not.
Yeah, I was
Which
about to say that
we'll
because
see.
if it's all multi-dotting on the final fights, it's not like, MM or survival is gonna be amazing. I don't know. I haven't tried the fights myself, sadly, but like I could imagine if the final fight is really movement intensive, maybe I mean that is in BM's favor, I suppose.
There was one fight that I was testing that I felt like Marks would be a little better. It was what was I can't remember the name of the fight, but basically, um, there's a boss in the middle, and there's tentacles all around the room that spawn randomly, and the boss is immune, and you have to kill a tentacle to pick up an orb, and getting the orb allows you to do true damage to the boss, and you can only deal damage to the boss while you have this orb, and so you have to basically attack all these different tentacles while they're really spread out, and so it sort of sucks for BM transitioning pet to pet for all these things. So I could see Marks being good there. The other thing that sort of sucks is that some of the tentacles have like smoke bombs around them, and you can't attack into the smoke bomb, and so you obviously can't kill command your pet into the
Okay, yeah,
tentacle.
that bit would do. Because I was going to say, to be honest, with target swapping that's far away, I'd rather BM and have the pet move across than put up with Marks's target swapping. Marks doesn't
Yeah,
target swap well. Like it hates
that's true.
that.
That's true. Um, But
Yeah.
there are a lot of fights. I think Silithid's actually going to be very good for BM. There are a lot of fights that have a lot of, because even Rodin has a lot of movement, ping ponging pet back and forth and stuff. Um, so I think that'll if you don't have a Silithid, I think you should definitely invest in one.
They're
But yeah,
free.
true, true, very
Invest
free.
the 8 minutes of time.
Yeah. Oh,
um,
it should be a long quest line with lots of RP.
Okay, let's see. Let's talk about CLF nerf. Okay, so next, so 8.3 we have new essences coming out, and they are nerfing CLF. So, well, not only are they nerfing it, but the CLF was bugged recently. So, Azor, do you want to speak to the CLF bug, and then we can talk about?
Yeah, okay, so just quickly on the bug. Basically, the CLF major is this ability called Guardian of Azeroth. You spawn it, it does a bunch of damage. It basically has a cast as well. And the bug was that if your haste exceeded 100%, its cast time would go below 1 second, but its GCD happened to be 1 second. which would completely fuck over its cast. I don't know the exact mechanics of how, because you would imagine it just casts, waits a split second, and then casts again, but apparently not. Paid AI is not very smart. So the bug fix was just they changed the GCD, like the pet, down to like a half second, and then it works fine. So that was a pretty substantial buff, but only if you ever cast CLF with over 100% haste. So it's a buff for like BM hunters on Sakul, uh, going into Delirium with all the haste. Survival, I think they probably reached 100% haste fairly frequently.
Yeah. Yeah, if you have good
Marksmanship
enough gear.
less so, I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, big buff
Yeah.
for like priests, mages, like all those
Yeah,
classes.
not as big for us as others, but
Yeah.
it's
I mean,
nice
you
like
reach
when
it
you
during
can rely
plus,
on such a thing.
right? Like that's when
Yeah.
it usually is happening, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it's like,
and
yeah,
that's
it's
why
like,
you wanna use it all the time. Or,
yeah, yeah.
well, actually, you didn't want to use it at the time, but it was only discovered like less
Would
than
it
a week
happen?
ago, and then they
Would it
fixed it
happen?
remarkably quickly.
Would it happen if you had like the CL if you used the CLF first and then later you got like 100% haste too, or would it
Then
have
it
to
would
be?
break. Yeah, then it would break midway through. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So then that's super likely for a lot of specs because of you get 5% haste from the CLF anyway, or is it 10% haste? I can't remember.
That's up to 10% at the
Okay,
end
yeah,
of
yeah.
each
So
cycle.
then that's super reliable. So if you have less, I mean that's 40%. Something a lot of specs, with good PvE gear, you have like 40% haste. You get overwhelming power. Like that's definitely really easy to attain.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
like without like haste buffs, or anything like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, anywhere where you've got like triple overwhelming proccing, even if it's for a small period of time, it happens a lot.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
When you're not rocking that peasant gear.
Yeah, no, I've had that shit happen too. I mean,
Yeah.
even when I have like the engineering helm, if I get like the haste buff from it, and then I have triple overwhelming. Oh,
Yeah. So after the bug, next patch 8.3, they are nerfing CLF, so no longer gets 5% increased damage, it is 3% increased damage, which most likely we probably won't use that because that's pretty big nerf. But I'm sort of glad they nerfed it because imagine having like an alt, having to go back and farm Eternal Palace, the old raid, just to get the essence and stuff like that. Man, that would suck. I mean, it's good for everyone that has it already, right? But um, so assuming we don't use CLF, what are some of the essences that we'll probably end up using?
I mean, the
So
nerf is pretty small. It's not. I mean, I'm not even sure why they nerfed it because, like, firstly, it's a very small nerf, and it's to its. I think it's minor actually. That
wait,
they're nerfing
really?
by like a pretty.
is
Yeah,
it
I
minor?
mean,
Mhm.
okay,
Oh,
so
it's
yeah,
just the minor.
Yeah,
God damn it, that's the PvP change, man. People just use
yeah,
the
okay,
minor.
so yeah, it's the
Fuck me.
okay. Correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe I'm missing a second part of the nerf, but as far as I'm aware, the nerf is just the minor power, which is when you have these ace right spikes you're dealing damage with constantly. And it says when an ace right spike deals damage, all damage you deal is increased against that target by
By
5%.
5%. Yeah.
Yeah, they're nerfing that to 3%.
Oh,
Yeah,
dude,
yeah,
that's
it's just
literally the whole
minor.
reason why you use it in PvP, man.
And that's I think the extent of the nerf. And while that's a decent part of that minor, it's not like it's a massive uptime.
Yeah, I understand why they're nerfing, why they went, hey, we need to nerf CLF, because for so many classes it was like, you take Rock Boy, there's no question about it. So
Yeah.
they're taking the bits that are at the top and trying to knock them down, and the ones that are at the bottom, the ones you never see, like Unbound Force and blah blah blah, and they're getting bumped up. They're not trying to do anything too drastic with the changes, just small tweaks to see if they can condense that down. Sometimes they muck that up a bit and you see like some of that happen, but yeah, what we need to see is what that winds up as.
Yeah.
There's some interesting changes as well for the multi-target. The increase to purification protocol I think is quite decent.
What did they do on that? What did they change again?
It's up, the main primary damage is up by 15% or something, and they
Oh, yeah, yeah.
also made it work in raids, or I don't know, something like that. So I'm sure I remember something along to that effect. But the
Yeah.
main part was the damage increase to that primary
Yeah,
ability. Because
they did
now, like,
that. And then what's the really crappy crit one? You just said it.
yeah, Unbound Force.
Unbound Force, yeah. They buffed that so now it's like 6%, or it's like Oh, you have 100% crit for like 6 seconds up from like 4 seconds or something, right? Like they
I
increased
wish they
that.
buffed the fuck out of that because when you get the legendary for that, the effect actually looks like it actually looks cool when
Does
you
it?
cast it. It's just a shit that it's
Hey,
dog shit.
So I
imagine
just like
farming rank
ran
fours.
some basic numbers on that nerf, and so in a 5-minute sim of mine with pretty good BM gear, I'm getting like 15 ace ride spikes in a 5-minute sim. Okay, so and it's 6-second debuff per time, so I'm getting 90 seconds of uptime on the 5% damage debuff approximately, which is math. It's like
He did the
30%
math.
uptime, right?
Okay.
So 30% uptime on like 5% increased damage is 1.5% DPS. That's what that part of the miner is contributing, and the nerfing that by, let's say, roughly half. Let's just say round and basically we're
That's
losing
0.7
point
DPS.
yeah
0.8.
0.7%
Yeah.
DPS to this nerf. Uh,
So
it's
that's
not
not
gonna
that much.
change.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, the nerf is not gonna change the essence we choose, but new essences might.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I'd love it if it brought it down enough that you didn't use it as a primary anymore, purely because lining up 3-minute cooldowns with 2-minute cooldowns is not fun. Like
yeah.
Yeah,
it's a thing and you can work around it, but it's not
Yeah.
particularly fun. It's
So
annoying.
the new essences, we have the one that has it's like the careful aim effect. And so it just does damage, does more frequent damage while they're above 80% or below 20% HP. And then the minor for that is basically another damage proc, and while you're in execute range below 20%, it has 400% increased chance to proc or something like that. Um, which seems pretty good. It seems basically just like I think it's like a 45-second cooldown, and it has a I think if you kill a target with it, it resets or something, and it doubles its power or something like that. Um, I don't know. I don't. I was using it on PTR and it seemed good, but I don't think it beat CLF. This was pre-nerf CLF. The miner was doing about 3% of my overall damage, which seemed decent. Um, so we might just end up using that just for the miner though,
yeah. Just looking.
because I don't like the
I
major
mean,
didn't seem
yeah.
that good, honestly.
Like execute is nice and all, but like effects that are only any good in execute is usually not like,
Yeah,
you gotta
I
get there first. It's while some fights are very execute centric, like you could say Jaina and stuff, where you might even choose God Ripper over overwhelming power. Also,
right.
that's also partly because overwhelming power lost uptime in that fight. But yeah,
I th I
I
think
don't want to
for
be the guy that like underrates the importance of execute, but uh,
well, I
I'm
mean,
not very optimistic about this
you
power.
have different right. So like you said, if there's like more they take more damage, they're more vulnerable or whatever in execute, then it's going to be good. Or if it's like a very crucial execute phase, then it'll be fine. But like if you're progressing during a fight, you don't want to have a trait on that doesn't do anything while you're progressing on the fight, right? Until you get to that point consistently.
Yeah,
And so I don't know, I feel like execute loses a lot of value until you get to that point consistently or have it on farm.
yeah. I mean, I could see it playing well with MM. Like, let's just like assume that MM has a chance after the BM, quote unquote buff. If you use a true shot with this, and you get all the crit and stuff, and you also get the increased chance for extra damage, and because it's like 10 RPPM this proc, um, like I could see true shot, unerring vision plus this combining for really good MM execute damage on top of what it already has.
Yeah.
But that's just it's one of those things where they combine well. You look at on paper it looks really good, but if the numbers just aren't there, then yeah, you're not going to be playing it.
Yeah. The other essence that they're introducing is basically no one's going to want to do it because you take your major, right, and you buff everyone else. You buff everyone else's essences, right? Like you send a wave out and it does more damage for everyone else or something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it wasn't all the testing, unless they've changed it significantly in terms of numbers. The testing of this was like, hey, that sounded good on paper and was really shit in practice. Like, A, it was only your party, not the raid. Um, the minor proc part of it was virtually non-existent, or certainly
I
not
thought
impactful.
so. I thought the minor was really bad, but I think the major, someone was saying that it hit more than intended. Like it said it was only supposed to hit like the first 5 people or something, and it was hitting everyone or
Yeah.
something.
Okay, so that early testing it was just like a small amount of people, and when you looked at the numbers and the difference, you're like, we lost a
Yeah,
major for this. Fuck that.
yeah,
But that was always going to be a okay. Well, something new. They have to make the new good or interesting, so I'm sure it'll get tweaked. It
yeah,
will be interesting to see where it lands.
It'll definitely be interesting because I mean you're gonna have either make healers get it or something, right? Because no DPS is gonna want to give up their
No.
major for it.
It feels like for top guilds, it's gonna be a question of math, right? And
Right.
just
Yeah.
crunching the numbers and who to put it on. For others, it's gonna be it's gonna be more player based for others, I guess. But I'm not sure. It kind of reeks a bit of World Vein Resonance, which is also
Yeah.
a collaborative essence that no one really. Well, I don't know.
Yeah, we
World
saw
Vein
how
Resonance is weird.
much that even once it got fixed, everyone was like,
Yeah.
nope, it's tainted.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't understand what they want out of it because it's not really that much fun for anyone if some people have to sacrifice their major essence slot, right?
Yeah.
Just above everyone else. Like that's
You know
the
what?
opposite of
Give it
rewarding
that it
character
also
power.
gives your raid fort and the demon hunter buff and the monk buff, so that you're not forced to take those fucking classes.
God. Yeah. I don't know. We'll see. I feel like no one's gonna want to use it, but if mathematically it's better, then obviously people will use it. Top end guilds will use it, right? Like I feel like a lot of the casuals.
That's like World Vein, though, right? You're saying.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of the top end guilds were using Worldbane, but then they found out that it was bugged, right, and it wasn't working properly, and so they were like, okay, screw this.
Yeah, that's another thing, you tend to assume that what the Sims say are true, and I think sometimes with these things it's like a placebo effect almost, because I heard like Top Guild they said that like okay, World Rain Resonance seems to suck on the Sims, but like we weren't pushing, I think it was a Shara P3 in time when we didn't use it. I was like,
That was Limit saying
that
that.
doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Limit say a lot of things. Limit says that their 3 band members never did RMT, but we've all fucking seen them in the RMT groups constantly to know that that's full of shit. I'm not sure how much faith I've got in Limit.
But after they did fix World Vein Resonance, and I feel like if the tier started over today, it would be way more widely used than
Yeah.
it is now.
Yeah,
And
100%. It's tainted from its.
I'm
It's like
fairly
Internet
sure that-
Explorer and Windows Defender. It's tainted from
Yeah.
being shit in the past. Even if
Yeah.
it's good now, it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's like
it
kind of like a
also-
survival or something, Like it's just the stigma is against it. And even though I think World Vein Resonance is pretty good now, with a full raid stack with it, or as many as you need for 100% uptime, I think it's better than most second
Yeah,
best minor
I think
essences.
technically it's better, but a lot of people, I mean, one, the tier's over, right? So like it doesn't really matter that much, and no one's gonna sacrifice if it's bad for them. No one's
It's
gonna
not over for
sacrifice it.
everyone.
Okay, well, a lot of it.
Yeah, it is.
Guilds. Yeah, it is.
Hey man, the tier is not over for me. I'm 2 out of 8.
Yeah, I respect that. You're on the defense rests.
No, I literally would only need like 3. There's actually thankfully not that much reason for me to go super deep. I mean, I could, but it's like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Just
Dilly.
get those caster trinkets so you can actually do
Titan
anything
foraging,
PvP,
Titan
right?
foraging makes it so I could be okay without doing that.
Dilly, how good is the spore pod in Mythic Plus? Dude,
So
I
broken.
had people.
But I actually low-key think it's bad for hunters because it AoEs when it procs, right? So like, what if you like harpooned the healer and trapped, and then it procced, and then it breaks your trap? And then hunters also are gonna die regardless. Like my philosophy is you're gonna die anyways as a hunter, so like you should just go for the max offense because nothing you do will ever
Confused.
save you. I mean,
Ne-
realistically,
neither
like,
of the hunter specs have a spell called Harpoon. What are you talking about?
like, regardless, if you're
Must be
playing
a
any of the range
PvP talk.
specs, you have to jump. You have to jump on the healer. You have to either disengage. Like you have to be near a healer because of how the fucking traps are. Besides, like you like Kobe Bryant it during a stun.
Yeah, I only asked because I sold like 3 underrots this last week, and they all wanted this.
Okay, for non-hunters, it is so incredibly broken. Holy shit! It's like a death strike when it like it's actually so insane. Like some classes are just like ultra unkillable if they have
Should I
that.
get on with Demon Hunter?
Yeah, you definitely should. Oh, you need the Mechagon punch card too. The tank one. Yeah, it's like whenever it's like you're constant every second you're healed for like I don't know like 800, and then it's increased by 200%, up to 200% based on like how low your HP goes.
Huh. Okay.
And it's just constantly healing you. It's broken as fuck. It's insane.
Well, speaking of PvP, how is Phase 2 treating you, Dilly? For Classic?
It's not bad. I actually kind of like it. Yeah, I feel like VGs would be better though. I mean, unfairly nice. So it's like really hard to say. It's honestly like most of the Zergfest, so it's like you're not really getting that much out of it. Honestly, all I cared for at this point was like getting, is it the rank 2 or whatever for just your trinket, because that's like actually good for dueling. Like otherwise, it's like any of the good rewards. It's like Grand Marshal or go home.
Do you have that? Do you have that one trinket off the world mob? It's like a 3-second stun or something like that.
Nah, I haven't grinded that one. Yeah, the title charm.
Yeah.
I think that was banned in the duel tourney, so I feel like.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, I mean it depends on what the rules are. I mean it's probably worth getting it just in case like the ally one is different or something.
Yeah.
I mean I'm definitely fairly behind because I actually I haven't grinded it as hard as like a lot of people. Like I like barely got like my Rock Dollar finished.
Yeah, are you full T1?
No, dude, I have literally. I lose it to our non-English speaking numbers.
All right, Prox is interrupting our Classic discussion. So, okay, so back to retail. I don't know, what other things do we want to talk about? Sort of touched on everything we had scheduled for today rather quickly. So I guess I'll open up for a Q&A. We can just see what y'all want to talk about. The corrupted bow. We sort of already touched on that a little. It's not good, basically. The CDR that it gives affects not only offensive abilities, but it affects defensive abilities. So like Min Pet, Exhilaration, Disengage, all that stuff. And so it sort of encourages people to not use defensives to get the most.
What if you use
offensive.
Aspect the Chameleon randomly?
No, man.
What is it? The thing that you have to train in the order hall?
Yeah.
It's like the Aspect of the Beast.
So yeah, so it's not really good. Hopefully, we're hoping they fix that, make it, either only offensive abilities or like have a separate ICD for, offensive versus defensive. Because like it's cool that it works on defensive abilities, but you don't want it.
They're on the same. They're on the same. So it's like the fact that it's like
so every auto shot. So every like 2 seconds or 2 to 3 seconds, right? It has a chance to reduce an ability by 1 second. So ideally, you want it to do, kill command, aim shot, whatever the fuck survival uses, one of their main abilities or whatever, right? And so, or Beast of Wrath or all that stuff, but you don't want it to use, to take off disengage or exhilaration or any of that stuff. In terms of DPS,
the main ability for survival is the guild recruitment tool button.
True.
Can we talk about how I just saw Prox's 59k sim? Yeah, well, Prox is boosted, so that would be why.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure survival hunter sim higher.
I got 2 slots.
That's some weak shit that I heard.
Yeah, wait, survival does sim higher, right? Survival's 60k.
Yeah.
Does survival sim higher, or does just the Belroth or whatever her name is sim higher? Because she's a machine. She doesn't count.
She's a
human sims only. Oh no.
Wait, is she? She's not raiding with y'all though, right, Azor?
Yeah, she is.
Oh, she is now.
She's trialing now. She had her first raid yesterday.
Oh, she beat you on any fight?
Well, I played like crap, and I didn't know about Thrill of the Hunt yet.
So
yeah.
yes. So yes.
I
You
beat
can
her on
be
the
my
first
survival
boss though,
hunter.
which is
It's okay. She's a good survival hunter.
she's pretty good.
Yeah, survival can really. I mean, I feel like I can pump a lot. I mean, sometimes it's just like impractical.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
honestly, it's not bad DPS wise this tier. It's just you would never bring it over like a rogue or
yeah,
any
yeah. I
other
mean,
melee.
that's the biggest thing. It's just that you're not range.
Yeah, it's
And
perfectly fine in a vacuum. It's just
Yeah.
we
yeah,
don't operate in a vacuum. So.
yeah,
I
exactly.
mean, you could bring it over a rogue. It's not like rogues are essential for half the mechanics in the raid.
This tier no.
I
Right.
I can't think of a single time, scenario, circumstance I would ever bring one over a rogue. There's
Okay,
too many times
the
where it's
limiting
like,
factors too, though, is like usually it's like you have to be really good at survival anyways to be useful to begin with. In which case, like what, like you're just gonna be super rare because it's an unplayed spec, and then you have to also be like they have to be good at a certain level. When you could just go and find like any like random rogue, like even if obviously like the survival hunter, that good survival hunter would outperform them, like the likelihood of you
but
having that person there to begin with is there. When also like you could just have like a bunch of
one of the
like
most ironic things is they're so much less survivable than rogues.
yeah, no, I mean. That is actually probably like the biggest joke that's always been there. I mean, it's always been like that too, though. I
I mean,
actually maybe not in classic, but I mean, even when I think like PvP and some of the other expansions, like MM would be like technically better with like readiness and shit.
yeah. I mean, survival's not like bad for like sustain because they have a lot of leech and then they have their mastery. And then they have exhilaration and stuff like that. The issue is they don't have any like rogues have so much preventative.
Exhilaration is on
Yeah.
global cooldown.
They have rogues have cloak, rogues have feint, rogues have cheat death. Like you basically can't kill a rogue. Like the rogue has to mess up for them to die or just be an idiot. Like
There's also a lot of, as I've discovered, having two tanks who love their damage extremely, there are a lot of times where tanks can get a lot of extra damage by getting a rogue to do something with their abilities that normally a tank would just do. And the rogue loses nothing for it, the tank gains a bunch out of it, and your effective raid damage went up quite a bit. So
yeah.
there's lots
You
of
talking
little
you
things.
talking
There's
about
so much shit like that. It's just fucking anything, man. Like,
wait, you talking about
honestly.
tricks?
No, well, no, like just
No, like
fucking
there's a lot
anything.
of
Like,
stuff for like
hey, rather
soaking
than
and
running
stuff.
over and soaking this, just get a
Mhm.
rogue to stand in it, or just get this, or just get that. Like, there's so many
Yeah.
little,
Yeah.
just little
'Cause
things
you
that.
could only like turtle and take that shit so often. Honestly, the thing is too is Sorrel is super global cooldown heavy, and like exhilaration is on global cooldown, and like when that's like your main thing to survive. Like I've noticed sometimes in PvE, it's like I'm just going so ham doing DPS that like I literally don't even get the global to use exil when I need to because they're just getting fucked so hard,
Yeah.
which is like
Um.
kind of hilarious.
So yeah. Serious question. Haven't caught much testing. Boss is decent for Hunter. Yeah, we talked about this earlier, but basically most of the bosses are very good for BM. Survival, I don't think there are a lot of bosses that you have to switch targets to go to kill this, to trigger this effect, or whatever, or focus down this target or whatever. So I think BM is the best at that out of the three specs. Um, there was one fight that I was talking about earlier that I don't know if it'd be very good for BM. It's basically one boss in the middle, and you have all these tentacles around. And you have to target swap to the three different tentacles, but the tentacles also have a chance at having like a smoke bomb on top of them, which basically makes you can't kill command to the tentacle because the smoke bomb, right? So stuff like that, which I don't think survival would be able to grapple to it either, right? Because if there's you can't
Can you grapple to the fire orbs in Jadefight? I'm assuming not, right?
I can't remember.
because you can't target it, right? So in PvP,
Yeah.
Dilly,
I say
if a
grapple.
rogue
I
has
mean
smoke
harpoon.
bomb and you're outside the smoke bomb, you
Yeah,
can't
yeah,
grapple
you
to them,
can't.
right?
Yeah, you can't.
Yeah, so
You
it'd be the
can't.
same thing. So survival will just have to run over to them in that case.
Get your Nikes
Marksman,
on that shit.
yeah, I mean marksman just doesn't really like because I mean you can't hunter's mark it either, right? Because it's not targetable. Into barrage, man. Barrage is actually not a meme for a couple of the fights in the raid. So I think
Uh,
because yeah.
Once wind up being too. That's nice.
I don't think Stampede's a thing, but I think Barrage, like I know when I was testing, I definitely used Barrage a couple times. That being said, I don't know if Barrage is gonna ultimately be the best because obviously you lack boss damage, right, with Barrage. So it could just end up being like a padding thing. Um, we'll see. I feel like there's gonna be a lot of fights next tier that are not included in the Warcraft logs because there's a lot of AoE fights. So we'll see. We'll see. But
They should just build in, like, rather than be like, hey, any AoE, you're out, just build in some mechanism which is like, how proportional is your AoE to the rest of the raid? Once, like, that contributes risk factors. Once you're over a certain risk factor, your character name just gets
Yeah.
renamed to
But if it
Padding
gets too
Korean. And
complicated,
then
then it gets
just change your character name
inscrutable.
to Padding Korean, and
yeah,
then
that's really complicated to add that
Yeah,
to
I
a
mean,
part or
it's
to.
one of those things like,
Wait, what is
yeah,
it?
if it's
I know.
perfect,
Imagine
it's
if it was a
well, it's
developer's
perfect.
web developer's full-time job. Like, hello.
But the thing is, like, well,
As
he
compared
doesn't
to like,
play.
He doesn't even
I
play
know,
WoW
I know,
anymore.
but
Yeah, he doesn't play
compare
WoW
it
anymore.
to, okay, here's your all stars for this 12 boss raid, and it's your top score from these 2 bosses that count.
Yeah.
At that point, you just take
I
away
mean,
all
there's
stars.
gonna
I
be
don't
more
know
than
why they
two
cut out
bosses,
Sakul.
but
That's so silly. Orgosoa, I can. Hold on, I can. Well, actually, I
no,
can't even agree with
I
that.
don't
But
know. Honestly, I think
I think you'd cut
I can see Zakul
Orgazal before Zakul.
because Zakul
yeah,
you can spawn a shitload of ads and just pad them all down.
Yeah, I
I
think
I
yeah,
the
but
don't.
that
better
makes the
strat
fight
is to
like
delete
substantially
the.
harder, and it's not like a easy fight to begin with.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, I
I
guess
wouldn't mind it staying in
I
it.
guess Orgoza the same thing though, right? At the end, you can just let ads keep spawning and just keep like you can prolong the fight. Because I don't think Orgoza has
Well,
a
yeah, you
rage, right?
can, but so what? Like, it's just like 2 fights out of so many. Like, it's I don't know. Like, I don't have a good rank on Sakul, and I would mind if it
You have a good
counted.
Yeah,
boss damage rank though.
Oh
I
my
don't,
god, that was
I don't
disgusting.
care
Did you see
about.
that, Prox?
No,
Go to
like
Sakul
just some
and
bad.
just look at like overall all spec rankings for boss damage.
I I've gone into real like maintenance mode. Like basically I log on the Sunday night, do our 3 hours, and then I log off. And the next time I log on for raid, the next Sunday, I still have my flask bath from the thing before. I'm like totally all my reps capped out, ready for next patch. Everything's done, all my prep's done. So I'm like, I'm just taking like a full
Yeah.
blown break.
That's basically like I only log on my hunter to raid and sometimes do like Mythic Plus, and I don't touch my hunter after that.
Jesus, you
Oh,
skull.
Yeah, I log in every day and hate button industrial locks. I hate butting everything.
oh Dilly, oh Dilly. But
See, PvP is repeatable. Mythic
oh,
Plus is Mythic Plus kind of is, but I guess it isn't because I mean eventually, right? Like you just I feel like
I
eventually
mean,
Mythic Plus
it
does
gets
get
to a point where like yes, but like a lot of people have quit so far, and most people that do High Mythic Plus don't care about score, and so if it's like a shitty Apex week, no one wants to play, and so it's like
yeah.
all of the good like next week's like the best week for Mythic Plus. I bet you all of the Mythic Plusers are gonna no life it next week and log in and be on for like 12 hours a day.
Trying to push like really
And
high
then
keys.
yeah, and then the week after, then no one's gonna log on. Like that's just how like Mythic Plus life goes. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean
With
PvP's
arena, people only don't play literally if it's like just super bad. Like, I mean, that's pretty much what happens. Like, I swear the gearing is so bad for PvPers and like the way everything works that I would rather deal with the classic gearing system, which is actually hilarious. Like when I'm complaining about like PvEing to do gear or to get gear for PvP, but it's like holy fuck! I swear it just doesn't even compare. Like the amount of
yeah,
bullshit you have to go with.
yeah.
Plus, I mean, it's like a competitive game, like a non quote unquote competitive mode. It's just
Right. Um well yeah, I think that's all we have to talk about, and I don't see any other questions, so we might be wrapping this one up early, boys. So
dang.
I know, I know. But yeah, so that is it for episode 8 of the True Shot Lodge podcast. I will
Hey, we're
post
actually on
this
time for a
soon.
change.
I know, I know.
I think there
So
just
All it took
wasn't
was
that
me
much to actually
barking when
change.
you talked about Classic.
yeah, it's because you cut Dilly off on his classic discussion.
Nah,
It feels
there
bad.
wasn't really that much to say. I mean, I feel like there just isn't that much going on right now.
Yeah, we're sort of in limbo right now, but
Yeah,
got Turkey Day coming up. Or actually, wait, me and Dilly are the only ones that had Thanksgiving, right?
I think so.
Y'all don't
Yeah.
Yeah.
have. That's an
The
American
rest of
holiday.
us
Oh
just
yeah.
eat like kings every fucking week.
And then yeah, I guess the holidays coming up soon, so but yeah, that is it for episode 8. So I will have this posted shortly and see y'all later. Thanks for watching, guys.
Yep.
Cheers.